A powerful winter pressure system has been bringing heavy snowfall to northern and western parts of Japan.
The storm has passed. The sky over northern Japan is clearing, and the world is buried under 2 meters of white. A man climbs onto his roof with a shovel. The snow is heavy, wet, compacting under its own weight. He's done this before. Everyone has. This is the routine that follows winter in these prefectures. Clear the roof before it collapses, dig out the doors, make the roads passable again. He leans forward, pushes the blade into the drift and loses his footing. In the time it takes to fall 6 meters, the storm that ended days ago claims another victim. This is how winter kills after it stops falling. Since around January 20th, 15 prefectures across Japan's northern and western regions have been hammered by record snowfall. The Sea of Japan side, where cold Siberian air collides with moisture off the water, saw accumulations that haven't been matched in 4 decades. Aomori measured depths approaching 2 meters, over 6.5 feet, burying cars, first floors and entire neighborhoods under a weight that doesn't melt quickly. The numbers tell part of the story. Early reports confirmed at least 30 deaths. As rescue teams worked through collapsed structures and stranded vehicles, that number climbed to 35 confirmed fatalities. Injuries followed a similar grim escalation. Over 100 serious cases in the first wave of reporting, then nearly 400 total injuries, with 126 classified as serious. These aren't abstract statistics. Each number represents someone who survived the storm itself, who watched the snow pile higher through their windows, who waited for it to stop, and then stepped outside into what they thought was the recovery phase. The storm itself was catastrophic, but the aftermath became a different kind of disaster. One that unfolded in slow motion across rooftops, driveways, and mountain roads as people tried to dig their way back to normal. The logistics of moving 2 meters of snow off a modern city is staggering. Sapporo deployed roughly 1,000 snowplows to clear 3,800 kilometers of road, enough asphalt to stretch from Tokyo to Okinawa and back. The machines ran around the clock, drivers working in shifts, carving corridors through white canyons that rose above truck cabs. The self-defense forces were called in, not for combat, but for excavation, using heavy machinery to carve tunnels through drifts that had swallowed intersections and buried emergency exits. Military personnel worked alongside municipal crews, their equipment cutting paths to hospitals, fire stations, and residential blocks that had been cut off for days. Airports shut down or ran skeleton schedules as runways disappeared under white. Train lines went silent. Highways became impassable corridors of stranded trucks and cars, their drivers waiting for plows that could only move as fast as the snow allowed. Some vehicles sat buried for days before crews could reach them. Power lines snapped under the weight, cutting electricity to over 1,700 homes in some areas, leaving families to heat their rooms with kerosene and blankets while temperatures stayed below freezing. Emergency services reported delays reaching people in distress, heart attacks, falls, carbon monoxide poisoning from poorly vented heaters. Every minute of delay was a minute the snow controlled access. The infrastructure that makes modern life predictable had been overrun, and the clock was ticking on every buried home, every isolated neighborhood, every person who needed help and couldn't reach it. But the storm itself didn't kill most of the victims. The cleanup did. Of the 35 confirmed deaths, the majority happened after the snow stopped falling. They happened on rooftops, where men and women climbed ladders to shovel off the load before it crushed beams and caved in ceilings. They happened on the ground beside homes, where people dug out doorways and cars, working alone in the early morning before heading to work. The pattern is consistent across the affected prefectures. Someone climbs up, someone loses balance, someone falls. A man in his 60s clears his roof in a rural village outside Aomori. The snow is dense, maybe 400 kilograms per cubic meter when it's this wet and compacted. He's moving tons of it, one shovel at a time, and the edge of the roof is slick with ice beneath the powder. One step backward to reset his stance, and the ice gives way. No one is there to catch him. No one hears him fall. He's found hours later by a neighbor who noticed the ladder still propped against the house. This is the window officials warned about, the days immediately after the storm, when exhaustion, isolation, and the sheer physical demand of snow removal converge. People work alone because neighbors are doing the same thing at the same time. People rush because another storm could be coming, or because the weight is already cracking joists and window frames. And people underestimate the danger because they've done this before, every winter, for decades, until they haven't. The falls happen fast. 6 meters is enough. The snow below doesn't cushion, it's packed hard as concrete. And in rural areas where houses sit separated by fields and forest, help doesn't arrive in time, even when someone does call. Then the temperature changes, and the danger changes with it. This is where the story shifts again. Officials issued warnings as warmer air began moving into the region. The thaw is not relief. When snow that has sat stable for days begins to warm, its internal structure shifts. Ice crystals melt at the contact points, turning solid layers into loose, sliding masses. Think of snow as a matrix of interlocking crystals held together by cold. Raise the temperature just a few degrees, and those bonds weaken. What was a stable blanket becomes a sliding hazard. Avalanches that were impossible at -10 degrees become probable at 0. Mountainous areas in the affected prefectures saw increased avalanche risk as daytime temperatures climbed, even as nighttime lows kept refreezing the surface into treacherous crusts. Slush forms on roads that were merely packed before, creating skating rinks under a thin disguise of white. Drivers who navigated packed snow without issue suddenly find themselves sliding through intersections, unable to stop, unable to steer. Icicles the size of fence posts snap free from eaves and power lines, falling with enough force to puncture metal. And rooftops that held firm under the initial load suddenly release their burden in chunks weighing hundreds of kilograms, burying anyone standing below in seconds. The thaw doesn't just melt the snow, it weaponizes it. This is the peak risk moment, the phase when stable becomes unstable, when predictable winter behavior turns chaotic. Search and rescue teams know it, meteorologists know it, but the people shoveling their driveways at dawn, trying to get their kids to school or themselves to work, often don't. The storm has passed. The sky is clearing. The danger is supposed to be over, except it's just beginning. Officials across the affected prefectures urged residents to exercise extreme caution during cleanup operations and to avoid working alone when possible. They emphasized the risks posed by both the physical exertion of moving heavy snow and the unstable conditions created by warming temperatures. Regional governments distributed guidance on recognizing unsafe snow loads and the importance of waiting for professional assistance when roofs showed signs of structural stress. The message was consistent. The snow is not going anywhere quickly, and rushing the cleanup is what turns winter weather into a casualty event. The warnings focused on coordination, checking on neighbors, working in pairs, knowing when to call for help instead of handling removal solo. 35 people are dead, not because a storm was unpredictable, but because the window after the storm is when winter extracts its cost. The snow falls, the roads close, then the cleanup begins, and people climb ladders, lift shovels, and walk across rooftops that were never designed to hold this much weight. The storm is the setup, the aftermath is the execution. Japan's infrastructure can move mountains of snow, but it can't eliminate the physics of frozen water or the choices people make when their homes are buried. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit subscribe. We cover the systems behind the headlines. And drop a comment. Have you ever had to clear serious snow, And what's the one thing that surprised you about how hard it actually was?